Yeah, we realised we had an early morning cancellation this morning.
Oh, right.
So that's why we've rang you, and it's worked really well actually for me.
Good. Right, here we go then. We're in Turin at the moment, in Italy. Very nice. And I'm going to head up
into Geneva. So to make this happen, we've got to spend the first couple of minutes programming the aircraft.
Okay.
And then once we've programmed the aircraft, we can get going.
Sounds good to me.
Alright. So the first thing you need to do
is put in the code for Turin Airport, which is LIMF, Lima India Mike Foxtrot.
Lima India Mike Foxtrot.
And that goes where it says Ref Airport.
And that one there.
That's the one. That gives us our GPS position. From there we go to our route page, and then we press Origin. Then where our destination is Geneva, so Lima Sierra Golf Golf. And that goes on the top right.
That one.
That's it. And then from there we can go departures, arrivals. We go departures, because now we're going to build the route for the flight.
Okay.
So we start off by pressing 36, which is the runway departure we're using.
Okay.
It will be the Searle 9 Alpha. And then down here we want to go next page until we find Kukev, or KUK. There we go, we've got 5 Mike and 6 November. You can use whichever one of them two you want.
Okay.
And what it is, it basically gives us this spiral in departure, because here is the Alps. So the spiral, the right hand circuit we fly gains the height for us.
Right.
Okay. From there we can go back into the route page and select next page. Once we get to Kukev, which is the last waypoint, we've got the airway, which is the Lima 50 airway. So we also type that in.
L50.
That's it. And that goes on the left. Then we have a waypoint which is called Banco. So we type that in as well. And all these are just GPS points. And that goes underneath Kukev. And then from Banco we start the approach down into Geneva. So we go back to departures, arrivals. Let's do my bit. There we go. And we select Geneva arrivals. We select ILS 04 from the top right. Yep. Once that goes through, we're going to use the Indies transition. And then on the left hand side we want the Bank 3 November arrival.
Bank 3 November.
That's it. Awesome. So what we've done is created this route that gets us from here to there via GPS.
Okay.
And then that now gives us our path that we need to follow. So from here we can execute that out, and you'll see that the route turns this magenta colour, which means it's locked into the system now. From there we can go to the init ref page. Okay. We press 5 because that's the flap setting that we use for takeoff, and that goes into there. And then that generates our V speeds.
Okay.
So we have V1, which is our point of no return.
Right.
So once we get to 129 knots, we're going too quick to stop the plane before it goes off the end of the runway. So we tap that one twice.
This top one.
That's it. The one after that is our rotate speeds. That's where we're actually quick enough to take off. So we tap that one twice as well. And then the one after that is our V2 speed, and that's our takeoff speed with one engine if an engine was to fail on us.
Right.
So we tap that twice as well. So that speed now, this 139, goes into this window here. So you can dial that in for me. And in the altitude window we're going to turn that up to 21,000 because that's our cruising level that we're going to take up on today. Okay, I've just got to set the takeoff trim, so watch your legs on the wheel. So the takeoff trim basically sets the elevators, which make us go up and down. It sets them to a preset position, which allows us to, as we go down the runway, allows us to almost barely do it much to just get that lift. You don't want to be fighting it, you want small movement to get that lift. So that's all that's designed to do.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good at that. Excuse me, I got a hiccup then. Now we can go ahead and get the engines prepared. So we go fuel pumps on, so you can pop those down for me.
All
All
those
three of
yeah.
those, yep. Okay, we can pressurise both our hydraulic pumps. And then we go left and right air conditioning off.
Into off.
And then our anti-collision light goes on. Okay, here we go.
Not like putting the key in a car, is it?
Not quite. A little bit more involved than that.
Wow.
And now we can start the engine.
Okay.
Well, we're doing one by one. So we come up here and we turn this one click to the left. And what that's going to do now is going to allow the compressed air to be forced into the engine, which is what we can hear now. When that number on here reaches 25%, that's when we put the fuel into the engine. And to put the fuel in, you slide number 2 out and up.
Out and up, right.
So you can do that for me once it gets there.
And now?
There it is, yep. And you can hear the note of the aeroplane, the engine change.
And you always do these one by one?
Yes.
Right.
It's because we've got too much to keep an eye on. If you had numbers all over the place, you would not be able to. Now this is live weather as well.
Brilliant.
So it is a bit foggy.
Yeah.
I have no idea what Geneva's like.
We shall find out, that's for sure.
We shall find out. In fact, I can look on the flight plan. I've not even checked. Okay, now we do the same with engine number 1. So we go ground position.
And keep an eye on that one and do the same again.
That's it. Geneva is actually a bit clearer. It's overcast at 1500 feet, but good visibility. Here we've got visibility 4000 with mist.
Right.
So it's actually a bit clearer at Geneva today, which is nice. Then once this is done, what we're going to do is I'm going to take you out to the runway, and then you're going to take us to Geneva.
Crazy.
And it's all done in real time as well, so there's no like Turin to Heathrow in an hour.
Yeah.
You see, so it's all done absolutely by the book, by the hour. Okay, now we'll do our before taxi checklist. So that means we're going to go generator 1 and 2, both need to go on. Okay, then we come up to here to our probes and we turn them on as well. And that just basically gives all the probes on the front of the plane heat, so they don't ice up. Then we go 1, 2, 3 to the auto position, that's our air conditioning.
Is that in?
That's the one. APU bleed air goes off. The 2 engine start switches now go to continuous. Okay. Auto brake goes 1 click to the left to RTO. And then we need to set the flaps. Now with the flap lever, we lift it straight up and we roll it back into gate number 1 and drop it in. Then we lift it up again and bring it to 5.
Okay. Into 1.
That's it.
And then down to 5.
Perfect. Okay, I'll put the anti-ices on as well because it is only 1 degree out there.
Yeah.
Now with it being 1 degree out there, the anti-ice is designed for the engine.
Right.
And because we're going to go straight up into mist and fog and cloud, it will instantly cause ice on the engines, which is not good. So we try and avoid that.
Yeah, I can imagine that might be an idea.
Now flying the plane. Forwards takes, oh sorry, I didn't realise your leg was on that there.
That's right.
Forwards takes us down,
Yeah.
backwards takes us up,
Yeah.
and then right and left is like driving a car. Now when we're flying, that's how you're going to control the plane, but we need to follow our flight director to guide us. Alright? So your flight director, well it's not on there at the minute, this is the wings of your plane, the little black dot is the nose of the plane, okay, and that's what you're in control of. The flight director, however, is this magenta line that you can see now. That pinky coloured line tells you when you need to steer left or right. So if the pink line moves to the left, it's telling us move to the left. And the idea is to keep the black square on the line at all times.
Okay.
And that will follow what we've just programmed.
Okay, yeah.
There'll be another line, another one of these lines that appears at the bottom of your screen when we accelerate down the runway. And as we get faster, this is our speed, okay, the line will move up to the top. And as it gets to the top and we get to our takeoff speed, which we know is 130, I will say the word rotate, and that's when you're going to pull back, smooth and deliberate, to get us airborne.
Okay.
Once you're airborne, you keep the black square in the middle of the pink cross.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
And the trick is to be smooth and deliberate with the controls. So
Yep.
don't try and turn it like this,
Yep.
because you'll never get anywhere. Actually turn it.
Yep.
So if you want to have a feel for the controls, just while I get you out onto the runway, because air traffic control have cleared us for a straight out departure.
That's always nice.
No messing around in Turin today.
So is that what you'd expect to be hearing over the radio at this point?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of radio chatter. There's in a longer session, I've got it set up for later, so all these wires you can see is me. I've got a 2-hour session later on,
right?
And we're doing it on a network where you speak to air traffic control.
Wow.
So you need that little bit longer to do it, but I'll explain a bit more about that later.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so now you can see you've got the 2 lines. Parking brake would be a good idea. You've got 2 lines on your screen. Okay, so you need your hands on ready. When we get to our takeoff speed, I'll monitor the speed. I'll call V1 rotate, and that's when you're going to pull back to get us airborne.
Okay.
So you can see the speed's increasing and the lines move to the top.
Yep.
Okay, and rotate. That's it. And then that's it, you got it. I'm going to put the gear up, so you may have to push forwards a little bit more. That's it, and now knock it forwards. Reason being is because we've put the gear away, it gets rid of a lot of drag. And now we're in the cloud.
So there's very little in this at this point actually looking out of the window.
No, exactly. When you're hand flying one of these aircraft, you are focusing inside the aircraft. When you're doing light aircraft flying, for example, you focus outside the plane and not inside. So completely opposites. I mean, the angle we're climbing at, even if you could see out, you wouldn't see anything apart from the sky anyway. So you've got no reference points to follow.
Right.
You're doing a good job of this.
Thank you.
It's good news for me.
It's always a start.
It's a good start to a Friday, that is. Okay. So you can see that your flight director is literally your saviour, really. It literally gives you everything you need to know. And because it works on a profile, it knows what heights to be at certain points. Although if you override it by not doing as it says, it will allow you to fly straight into a mountain, which isn't ideal. But
I'm guessing that flash of light was lightning.
no, it was probably just a cloud going over the window if we're passing a low cloud or something.
Right.
There's no lightning out there today. So we're coming up to 8,000 feet. You can see your altitude on the right.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
And it's the only office in the world where you're guaranteed sunshine in the day.
yeah. Absolutely love it.
So it seems like you're finding that quite straightforward, actually. You're not
fighting it.
Not fighting it, no. Some people struggle straight away with it. Okay, we're passing 10,000 feet, which is nice. And then you've got the Alps just over to your sort of 2 o'clock. Well, all everywhere, to be fair. That's where we're going. And that circle, we're just now passing back over the top of the airport.
Right.
So it gives us all that time to get high enough.
Maybe all these hours playing on the PlayStation has actually paid off for a change.
Yeah.
I knew there was a reason.
Sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes we get youngsters that come in here that they're always on the PlayStation and they still can't grasp it. There we go, so we're coming up to 13,000 feet. Now once we've made this next turn, there's a small turn to the right by about sort of 10 degrees. If you want to, you can have the autopilot on for a little bit, or you can fly all the way to Geneva, it's completely up to you. In these 1 hour sessions we try and cram as much in as we can. Like some people want a hand flight all the way, some people want a little bit of autopilot so they can look around a bit more. So
I would certainly like to be able to look out because it's something that I've always wanted to be able to do. Any time I've actually been on a plane, I'm like, I'd love to see what it actually looks like out the window, out the front.
Yeah.
Especially as my wife always ends up at the
on the window seat.
On the window seat, which I don't mind. Don't get me wrong.
That's alright. Well, what we can do is we can give it another minute. There's Mont Blanc out there, the big mountain in the distance.
Wow.
So if you want to put the autopilot on, all you do is you release the controls and press Command B.
Command B. That one.
That's the one. Now your autopilot's on. So now the plane will fly exactly how you were flying. So it will trim itself out, so it's stabilising itself.
That is crazy.
And that's how it will stay throughout the flight if you left it. It'd just fly all the way there. Which is what it's designed to do, really.
Sure. So it's at this point when you do, I'm assuming, once everything feels stable and everything else, you can turn all the things off behind you and people can...
You can do that before that point. Right. Normally it's about 10,000 feet you do that. Depends on the weather.
And is that something that you'd expect yourself to do? Oh, yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, captain's decision. Well, pilot's decision.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if we're taking off and we're flying straight towards storms, what's the point in taking the seatbelt signs off? So it's more of a judgment. I didn't touch that.
So what is it I'm looking at here?
Oh, that's just a chart. That's a chart for Dublin Airport. That's just a chart for Dublin. So you'd use these for, you'd use them for actually getting yourself in and out and around airports.
Gotcha.
What we'll do is let's set everything up we need for Geneva, because Geneva's not all that far away. It's only sort of, well, Geneva is just over there somewhere.
Okay.
So we go past Mont Blanc and then we start descending anyway. So
yeah.
What we need to do is if we go into the init-ref page, it tells us the frequency and the course for the runway, which is the ILS approach, which means your cross will guide you into the runway. So we're going to type it. We're going to dial in down here using the dial at the bottom and the dial at the top. Okay, it moves both sets of numbers. 110.90.
110.90.
That's it.
Okay.
Then we press TFR, which is transfer. Okay, so that means that when we get within range of the airport, it will look for that frequency. Okay, and then up here we're going to dial in 045 because that's the course for the runway.
Okay.
So that's telling the autopilot in which heading it's got to follow. Okay. Now the runway down there is nearly 4,000 meters long. It's a huge runway. You were flying it really well actually, so we don't need to worry about not stopping when we land. I think you'll be fine.
Okay.
So we'll set an auto brake 2. Now the higher the number, the harder the brakes come on.
Okay.
Now this all depends on the condition of the runway. So if it's wet, dry, slushy, rainy, whatever you want to put on it. The weight of the plane when it lands, so that includes your passengers, the fuel that's on board, which obviously you got a lot more inertia. Okay. And it also depends on the weather, the wind, how it's affecting the plane. So to do that properly, we have to recalculate a lot of stuff using the tablet.
Yeah.
So with it being a long runway, it's quite an easy decision today. So what we're going to do is we're going to press flaps 30 as well, twice. There we go. And that pretty much sets us up for the approach into Geneva, believe it or not. I mean, there's a lot more involved than that. But it's trying to get it all crammed into a session. So.
Yeah.
Now we're coming up to a waypoint called Banco, which is a couple of miles away. You'll notice that the plane will actually just turn absolutely perfectly.
I just love it.
And that's Mont Blanc.
Wow.
So now we've done that, if you want to, now we've done a little bit of setting up. If you want to take over and fly it, feel free.
Yeah, sure.
You can press that one, that's fine. And then you're back in control. It just gives you that bit of looking around and setting up, doesn't it? So we've got we're almost at our top of descent point. So the aircraft knows where it has to start descending. It's already worked it out. So it's in 5 miles time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this down. Okay, that means that when we get to that point, the aircraft will know that I've tampered with it. And it will allow us to start descending.
Okay.
If I don't do that, it will just stay at 21,000 feet and it won't know any different. So there's a lot of pilot input still in a flight.
And I suppose the thing is that there's probably an awful lot of discussion, I'm guessing, at certain points when you're trying to do this at the same time. And as well as, right, okay, I'll fix that bit. And
well, when you're taking off and, well, anytime you're flying manually, there's no proper discussion.
Right.
The only things that will happen verbally is commands. So you would not have your conversation about what you're doing tomorrow because it's the weekend while you're flying it manually. When you're flying it manually, it's called a sterile cockpit.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that,
So
yes.
which means we don't chit chat. If you want something doing like a speed change or a heading change, you will just say heading whatever or speed whatever.
And what would prompt me to do that?
So as pilot flying, it's your responsibility to command me as the pilot monitoring what to do.
Right.
Even though I know what to do, but it's because it's classed as your aeroplane now. So when you want the flaps doing or the speed change, and it all comes with feel. So once you get used to flying, it all makes more sense.
Yeah.
So you would say to me, you know, when we're coming in a bit close to the runway, you'd say set flaps 1. And I'd say speed check flaps 1, speed 180, and then you would check it off as I did it. So everything's checked and double checked.
And all of those check and double check things are all the things that keep people safe, I'm assuming.
They are indeed. There's a lot of it going on in the flight deck that you'll never ever know. Obviously when the cruise is happening, we're having a chit chat because that's what you do. You're just normal. You're not robots. You know what I mean? There's a lot of work talk going on because ultimately you're working out, weather down at, as you descend, the weather. What's it doing? What's the wind doing? How's it going to affect the flight?
And is that something that I would be looking for as well, or would I still be just looking at my my display here? Is that something that?
Yeah. So when you're in autopilot, we'll be working it between us.
Right.
When you're hand flying it, then it's down to me. But you do all that. You only really hand fly it when you have to in a real flight. It's not something you just do because you feel like it. It's like a last resort kind of thing.
And is that for instance, if you've got like a lot of turbulence, is that where you'd expect the plane to just do it for you on the autopilot, or would you, depending on the situation, I guess, to be right, okay, as a pilot, I'm going to take over now?
I know the plane will do it.
Right.
But what you do is you'll keep your hand on, the pilot flying will keep their hand on the yoke because sometimes, bear with it,
right.
Sometimes in severe turbulence it can kick the autopilot out,
right.
which will make that noise. So it's one of them things that when you're in bad turbulence you'll keep your hand on, so the second it makes that noise you're in control. So Geneva Airport is just down here in the gap. It's not a million miles away now. It's less than 10 miles ahead of us, but we've got to make a left turn and then make a 180 to come back on ourselves.
Is that what it's now asking me to do?
Yep, there's a left turn. So we're going to fly this left turn for best part of maybe 10 miles. The airport's actually just there. You won't be able to see it at the minute because you're in a turn, but when you roll out of the turn, it should be about your 5 o'clock. You'll see it. Big white area on the floor. Looks like it's had snow.
It was really funny when I was supposed to be here before that big C word kicked off.
Yeah.
Because my dad, he said something to me which I'm so glad it's going to be picked up on the recording because it was hilarious on the basis that it ended up actually happening. He said to me, "So this flight experience you're doing, Aarren, what if the weather's bad?" I was like, "What are you talking about? It's I'm not flying in an actual plane, in a real plane." And he was like, "Yeah, we never know." And then literally, I got the phone call from yourself saying the weather's put it off. And I was like, that couldn't be more ironic if it tried to be.
So your dad meant the weather in the sim,
Yeah.
and then we ended up with severe weather that ripped the roof off the building.
Basically, yeah.
See, parents know everything.
That's it.
What if the weather's bad?
I seriously, honestly, me and my mum looked at each other, my wife looked at me, and I was like, has he really said that?
Well, actually, in all fairness, if the weather's bad in the area that I choose to fly on the day, then I'll try and fly, so I'll do somewhere else. So if I don't have a request, so like this, if you decide you're going to come back and fly again with us, for example, you might say to me next time, can I fly into Tenerife? On that day, I'll make sure you fly into Tenerife, but also my day will be based around the Canary Islands. So if I don't get a request, I'll pick an area and I'll fly around that area. But by the end of the day, I'll be in Gatwick.
So I'm nice to be at home, yeah.
Well, I'm staying in this area for the morning, and then my last session of the day is a 2-hour session.
Right.
And we're doing Gatwick. We're doing Geneva to Gatwick. I've already planned my routing out, but I'm doing it on that network I was telling you about.
Yes.
So they'll be doing it. We'll be doing air traffic control, getting clearances, which for the actual immersion of flying, it really does add. It puts you in that.
Yeah.
So realistic.
You can be sure at some point in the future I will definitely be back, without a shadow of a doubt. This is one of the most amazing things.
Well, before you leave today, I'm gonna tell you what options we have for you as a someone that's here with us.
Yeah.
We have some like little offers and things.
Okay.
See what you think.
Yeah. I also think, even though it wouldn't be my wife's thing, she would be extremely good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
We'll edit that out of the video.
her attention to detail is stunning.
Is it?
Yeah, it really is. If there's like an ultra hard setting or something, I'd put her on that because she'd do all right.
What you mean, make it stormy?
Yeah, that'll do. Yeah.
Then I'll be in trouble with her, won't I?
But then if you let me do it afterwards and then put it on the ultra easy setting.
And don't tell her.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Say what was all that fuss about?
Yeah.
So you see this here.
Yes.
That is another aircraft.
Okay.
And that one is.
Right.
They are live air traffic in the world right now.
Amazing.
So we have this software that allows us to bring that into our simulator. Now it's turned down to like 15% or something, because if we have it full realism, you'll never get in the busy airports. But that is 2 live air traffics. This one looks like it's coming into Geneva. Look, it's 1,200 feet above us and descending.
Yeah.
It's about 16 miles in that direction. Now, if this was night time, I guarantee you would see it, because
Wow.
you'd see the lights flashing.
Yeah. And I'm guessing just because of the colour of the plane, you wouldn't necessarily notice.
No, they're very difficult to spot, unless you're at high altitudes. So
Sure.
if you're high up, you'll see the trails coming out the back of it.
Yeah.
Some people call them chemtrails because they reckon it's a conspiracy, but it's just condensation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a guy here once, and he said that he reckons there's a button on here that allows us to fire that out the back.
Oh, really?
I says, there's not. I said, what are you on about? He's like, there is. I've seen it on YouTube. I went, ah.
Oh, it must be
It
true.
must be true then. There's your problem. It's YouTube. And he couldn't grasp it. He was deadly serious. He was like, even when I said that as a joke, he couldn't.
Oh, brilliant.
He wouldn't have it. Would not believe me. Said it's just condensation. It's hot air meeting cold air. It's minus 50 up here.
Yeah,
You know, it's like when you boil a kettle. You know, steam.
yeah.
And
Yeah. I was always fascinated by those as a kid, because I always used to, whenever I'd see one on a clear day, and I would always be wondering where they were going.
all the planes.
Yeah.
Now you got flight radar.
Yeah.
Have you got the app?
Yes. I really have. I honestly have.
Joe, it's funny you say that, because I was driving down the motorway just before COVID actually, and you get to know certain routes,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden I seen this huge aeroplane coming super low, like, don't know, at the time I had no idea what it was,
Mhm.
and it was only at about 8,000 feet, and it was a Dreamliner
Oh wow.
repositioning from East Midlands to Birmingham,
Right.
and it went straight across the M69 down here, and I knew it weren't right because, well, I've been there. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, but it was repositioning. It had been to East Midlands for some reason. I don't know what the reason would have been.
Mhm.
It might have had to do on a divert or whatever. But the repositioning flight tends to stay quite low.
Yeah.
8,000 feet, it will just tootling along in a straight line to Birmingham Airport. Oh, well, there we go.
So those red lines that I've just seen appear next to my speed,
Yes.
what are they?
They're now your overspeed. So because I've put stage 1 flaps in,
Okay.
when you put any flaps in, you cannot fly above 250 knots. Else
Okay.
it can cause severe damage to the airframe.
Okay.
If you only just go in it, then it's not an issue.
Mhm.
But if you sort of dropped it down to 300 knots, then we'd be in a bit of a pickle.
Right.
This part of the flight always requires speed brakes. It's always a bit like touching the line a bit, because it's Italy's renowned for steep descents.
Okay. What's the airport where you've literally got to kind of do that?
There's quite a few of them actually.
Oh, is there?
That's only just in it, so that's fine. That's nothing to do with you. And it's the only noise that you can't switch off.
And what is it? What is it telling me if I was to hear that noise?
It's an overspeed.
Right.
So it's because our speed is at 252. It will go off in a minute. The second you pull the nose up now, give it a couple of seconds and it'll go off.
Yeah, I can see it dropping down.
There you go. There's loads of really tricky airports in the world.
I remember being told by a friend of mine, is it the one in Tokyo, that you come down between buildings?
Oh, that's the old Kai-Tak airport. That's the one they used to on Krypton Factor.
Oh, is that one?
Yep, we have that in the sim. Bit of a challenge if you fancy a challenge at some point. Always up for a challenge. There's very few people that land it there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's really difficult. Oh, there we go.
Oh, I know.
There's the runway straight ahead of us, look. Also, there's another plane on finals. In fact, there's one taking off and one on finals, look.
So all the, on my display here, the coloured bits, is that the terrain?
That's the terrain. So green means we could fly at it at the current altitude and would be okay.
Amber means you would
Be within 1,000 feet, which is okay but not ideal. And red just basically means like lights out.
Yeah.
So in stages, I've been bringing the aeroplane down to its sort of landing speed. I'm still not quite there. That plane's about 4 miles ahead of us. Now, the chances are when we land it, we'll still be on the runway. It is live traffic. It can't see us. We can see it, but if we drive through it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So just shut your eyes for that bit.
What aeroplane?
Yeah. We actually use it for when we do commercial pilot training. So they would be aware of this traffic. And we expect them to note it, tell us what I've just told you. And then we allow them to continue to land. It's like when you're taxiing around, sometimes one will just keep coming at you because it's designed to do it. I mean, he might be off the runway. If it's a Ryanair, he'll take his time. But then again, he won't. He'll get him off and get the pass. It'll be took off before we land.
So do you guys also assess pilots as well?
Indirectly, yes. We do what we call sim prep.
Right.
So we get pilots contacting us that are looking to do a bit of out of hours training. So we do assess them, and we can teach them things that they see. There's an aeroplane just taxiing out onto the runway. See that little blip there?
Yeah.
There's an aeroplane just there. If you look closely, you see its lights flashing. Now that's my job as the monitoring pilot to pick things like that out, because you are flying the plane. I can see there's a plane on the runway. Doesn't look like it's creeping though. Might be wrong.
So as a pilot that is flying the plane right now, I would still be expected to look at this and not look out.
Oh no,
there.
you'd do a bit of both now, so you'd look in and out. See this ring that's saying 570, 560? When that says 400, you're supposed to look all the time outside. See, that plane's creeping, so we'd expect a commercial pilot to abort their landing at this point. But we're just going to, it's only an easy jet. So.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And that other plane is off the runway. So you can go visual now if you want and actually fly the approach. So just ignore everything on your screen. Ignore the easy jet.
What jet?
That one is off the runway as well. Just bring it to the right a little bit.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
It was an easy jet in front of us as well, look. Good landing.
So at this point, the yoke is no longer applicable.
No, that's right. The yoke won't do anything at all now. It just sits there and relaxes. You did really well then.
Thank you.
That
was incredible.
You enjoyed that?
That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. If I didn't have my mask on, you would literally see a smile from ear to ear.
If I didn't have mine on, you'll see that I've enjoyed that, because it's a decent flight. So that EasyJet's just taken off. He hasn't waited. Like I said, he can't see us, so You might catch it just out your window. Oh, it's gone past us.
It's not like you can look in your rearview mirror, is it? Though?
Yeah, that thing. Look, let me show you that network. So this network that we fly online is this. So every aeroplane
Wow.
you see on that screen is somebody now flying a simulator.
Yeah, yeah.
Could be just a PC at home.
Wow.
When you zoom in, for example, Copenhagen
Yeah.
Airport has got a controller on at the minute. This whole area has got a controller that's controlling that whole bit of airspace. This would be Copenhagen control.
Yeah.
Rome has got a controller on at the minute. They're people that live in that area, so I couldn't be a Rome controller. Gatwick at the minute, oh no, Heathrow, sorry, they've got a controller online. As the day goes on, it will get busier and busier. And we do online flights, so you could do potentially like Geneva to Gatwick in a 2-hour session with us on that network. Would wear different headsets, which are the ones down in the box down here, and that will picks up the air traffic control, and we speak to them as well.
Wow.
So it just immerses you into a different level of flying. It's
and it is a completely different thing. I mean, even just chatting with yourself while I'm trying to keep that thing on that cross, it was like, you know, don't get me wrong, it wasn't unbelievably challenging. It was, I had to really focus on it. But then if I'm listening to air traffic control and whatever else, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, you see. When you're flying, your only job, so say now we've just flown from Turin to Geneva. If we were picking up more cargo or more passengers and flying back to Turin, I would fly back.
Right.
So my job on the way in, well, your job was to fly the plane here. So that's your only responsibility, is to fly the plane. My job would be all the systems, the air traffic control, the monitoring, everything else. So you don't really have to do anything other than fly the plane. However, you will have to keep an eye out for things as well. So you would be listening to air traffic control, but you wouldn't be speaking to them. Okay, that'd be my job. And then when we land, and then turn around and head back, you would speak to air traffic control, and I would do the flying. So you kind of mix it up in that kind of way. But yeah, you did wicked. Really good flying.
That was ace. That was absolutely brilliant.
There's another plane coming in. Look, you see it?
Ah, yes. And is that live
That's
now?
live traffic, yeah. It's quite weird, isn't it, knowing that that's an actual live flight coming in.
You are literally sat in the airport. You're not in a sim, you're in the airport. This is crazy.
And if I was to go on the network as well, I wonder. Let's have a quick look. If I go to Geneva Airport, although there's no controller online,
Yeah.
there could potentially, so there's no aeroplanes here either. Oh, there is, there's one there, look.
Right.
So that's somebody at Geneva Airport now ready to do a flight
Amazing.
to Gibraltar, actually. And his name's Pascal Kupts.
Brilliant.
So you would see that plane as well.
Yeah, yeah. And
So-
there's a British Airways one over there.
Yeah.
The EasyJet's just come in. He's finished.
He's finished, he's turning around on the runway, which he shouldn't be doing. But hey-ho. But yeah, well done.
Thank you so much. That
You're
was
very welcome.
absolutely fascinating.
Good, I'm glad you enjoyed that.
And there is not an element of me that will not be back at some point, because that was just so good.
Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you through to reception. And while we get all your card tapes off and package back up, I'm going to show you we've got some we have some like return options, which actually, if you feel like you might want to do it again, it's the cheapest option to do it. Right. So I'll tell you what they are. You just sort your